Welcome back, everybody, to Metis. If you're back, I'm absolutely thrilled to have you here again. If you're new and don't know what I'm talking about, this is the channel where we talk about the Munich student and entrepreneurial ecosystem. And I have started a series where I will guide you through each and one of the biggest student initiatives in Munich. So we kick things off with an overview video. And this time's video is all about Academy Consult. So if you remember in my overview video, I characterized them with the words student organized, consultancy, driven and hands-on experience. So let's see what more information we can find out in this one. So let's get straight into this. Now, if you've always wondered what actually Academy Consult, the concept of student consultancy is all about, then this is the time to find out. Academy Consult is the student consultancy in Munich, and they were actually founded in 1999. So we're pivoting a little bit from our original student initiatives, who are mainly into entrepreneurship, into consultancy. So their main target is kind of to enable students to use their theoretical knowledge within consultancy projects for companies. But how does that actually look like in practice? Because consultancy sounds pretty fancy. I remember the time where everybody wanted to be a consultant, now everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. But what does this actually mean? So in terms of your work at Academy Consult, there are two main things you have to keep in mind. So there are both internal projects or internal work you have to do, and then there's also the possibility to do external consultancy projects. Now let's start with the first one, which are the internal departments. So overall, we have 5 departments. That's how it's structured. And each one of these has a board member or Vorstand who kind of heads the department, let's say. Now the first one is called Finances and Law. So they're at intersection with any kind of juristical persona. So they look into implementation, for example, of taxes or juristical issues, and then also ensure that there is actually liquidity. So that is, as with any business, very important to ensure. The second one is called Internal. So they are all about your personal journey as a member at Academy Consult. So that starts with you being a trainee. We will talk about what being a trainee is actually about, but basically you starting at the student consultancy just up until the time you're an alumni, and they kind of offer you different ways how you can evolve as a person, really. The third one we have is client relationships. So as the name may suggest, they're mainly the interface between client and Academy Consult. So there are both client acquisition tasks, but there's also client retention and then relationship building with partners. Partners we will also cover in the video. Fourth, we have technology and process management, who are all about optimizing Academy Consult and digitalizing them and automating really processes internally, because as we have to remember, this is a student-run consultancy, and obviously there are limits to the capacity. So the more we can automate, the better our processes run also internally, the more we can actually achieve. So they actually also ensure that quality and knowledge is maintained over the years, as obviously members change, but you want to have a high quality overall. Fifth, we have marketing and PR, which are responsible for the public perception of Academy Consult, really, and that ranges from both PR campaigns to creating flyers and really awesome movies. I mean, they have top-notch quality. All right, so these are kind of the 5 internal departments where you can go into. And what does this concretely mean for you? Basically, if you're admitted to Academy Consult, you will have the opportunity to choose one of these departments to work on. This is to ensure that you then drive also these internal projects forward. Now you meet bi-weekly within your department, and then you can exchange with both your team leader and also the board member on how your project is going along. This normally takes around 2 hours, but it's not only work, it's also a lot of fun to just kind of see your team members and just talk about it. And another touch point which you have internally with everybody at Academy Consult is the bi-weekly meetings, which are called member gatherings, where all active students come and discuss on, for example, how the projects are going, something a new thing or topic we want to maybe implement, and so it's first discussed internally before anything is happening, and so the board members also might have some new topics which they want to talk about. This also lasts around 2 hours, but this is just to give you a rough idea. It really depends on the agenda. And after these general gatherings, there is normally a Stammtisch. So as I talked about, Stammtisch is the German word for kind of gathering after work, or like in a certain frequency. So we might go to a bar, have some drinks, and there's also sometimes the opportunity that there is one of our partners or sponsors who comes along and then sponsors everybody's drinks. So that is pretty cool, and you can just exchange with people who you might not see on a regular basis. So a terminology which I would like to introduce at this point actually is how you can be both active and a passive member at Academy Consult, and just generally speaking, your internal development over time. Now, every semester you are asked actually if you want to be working in an internal department, and if so, in which one of these. And then you will be matched according to that. Now, if you do not participate over the semester, you are considered passive. So for example, me at the moment, I'm a passive member, and this could be especially relevant if you're going abroad or if you have too many things on your plate, which we all know happens. Now, this will also though impact your ability to take on external projects, as obviously the more internal projects you do, or the more you kind of give to Academy Consult, they're also more leaning towards giving you an external project. Now, this is not a hard factor. There are people who are passive and also do external projects, but normally there is a certain correlation there. So for those who might be familiar with consultancies, you might know that there are progressions overall. So you start off, say, as an analyst or as an entry consultant, and then you work up your way. So there is a similar thing going on at Academy Consult. So you start off as a trainee, which means you are accepted at Academy Consult kind of on a conditional basis, let's say. So you do your internal work in a department, and then you do an internal project to further develop Academy Consult. We will talk about the whole trainee phase in the later part of the video as well. For me, for example, it was doing Academy Tech. So we did a marketing campaign for them, which is the tech sector, let's say, of Academy Consult. And after your first semester, you have a conversation with the board members, and then you showcase your work. So this is really good time to kind of check in from both parties if there's a match there and if you want to continue doing this. And if they say yes and you say yes, then you become a member. And basically, after you become a member, you can then, there are several progressions there as well. You can become a team lead, for example. You can become a board member. You can also become a controller, which means that you are kind of a very experienced consultant for external projects. So they kind of oversee these. But it's really individual. So there are so many opportunities for you to kind of develop yourself. There's not like you are pushed into one direction or you need to do one of these. It really depends how much you want to give in, how much you want to get out of it really, and yeah, just kind of these in as well. Okay, so I teased external projects, but what actually can you expect as a student consultant? I mean, what is it actually all about? So at Academy Consult, we have around 480 projects done, so there's lots of expertise, and the projects really range in different branches. So we have automotive, industrial, consumer goods, there is real estate, education, and technology. But there are also projects who just come from another areas, and there are also different subcategories actually. So that's kind of where there is a specialized knowledge which we can offer to the client. So these are called Academy Innovation, Academy Operation, Academy Strategy, Academy Tech, and Academy Sustainability. So now if we talk about each and every one of these, we will be here till tomorrow, I feel like. So I will do actually a separate video on everything about external projects, what that means to you, how you can work in both one-person teams to bigger teams, how actually the whole process is about it being announced internally, and what that means in terms of monetization and how you can actually earn money as a student consultant as well. So stay tuned for that video. All right, we talked a lot about work, but it is also a lot of fun. I mean, everybody is super driven, that's true, but there are a lot of events. So every semester we have, for the introduction of the two new members, new trainees, a kickoff. So we go away a weekend, and Academy Consult also actually organizes every 10 years the Congress for Germany's student initiatives, which is called BDSU. And overall, as a student consultant, you are actually part of a bigger network. So there are different international networks as well, where you can go to conferences and just kind of go to workshops and interact with companies, interact with other student consultants, and it's just a really great way to do that. So I was, for example, in London, so that was a blast. And this year it's going to be in Lisbon. So there's always something new to do and something new to be discovered. Smaller events in Munich could include something like running dinner, so this is very fun. That's basically where you hop between stations, so you might do the entry and then you go for main course to somebody else and then dessert someplace else. And something like movie night, so just where you can kind of chill and hang out. So these are really fun people, and it's just a place where you can build friendships and also potentially even business partnerships. Now, let's talk application. So let's say you're interested. What is it actually they are proposing, and what do you have to bring with you? All right. So value proposition number one basically is soft skills. So I learned a lot during my time, and there are just a lot of things you can really go into. I mean, from breaking down information, how to present it, how to steer a project. And it's really something interesting that I think they offer both to trainees, but also to their members opportunities to develop further. So every semester there are actually different opportunities to do that. And honestly, like it saved me a lot of pain in my first consultancy internship. So it's really a lot of skill sets you can take with you. The second one is network. So they have more than 300 alumni across corporates, consultancies, and startups. And it's just really fun to meet up. So we do every year kind of an alumni trip, and both active members and alumni can join. So it's a nice way to connect and stay in touch. And this year, I believe it's going to Barcelona. The last time I was there, it was going to go to Dublin. So we went to Dublin and it was just so much fun. And you always get to know somebody new, and you might have just some really cool memories there as well. The third one of their value propositions is practical experience. So both, I feel like in your internal project and your external projects, you can gain new skills, and you can actually also think about how you can choose them. So you can choose them complementary, for example. So you might learn some new skills in your external project in terms of tech, but you might also be at the marketing department. So that's really just different ways where you can develop as an individual. So what are they normally looking for? One of the biggest ones is actually initiative. And this is really crucial because everything is student-led. So you really have to bring in your new ideas and just kind of take charge of things and push your projects forward. The second one is you have to be a student. So this is kind of obvious, and then it's not, because if you look at something like Manager More or CDTM, you have to start being a student. Like you have to at the beginning be a student, but at the end you might be already working. But at Academic Consult, you have to be the whole duration actually enrolled in university. So keep that in mind. And then the third one is time. So they say around 15 hours is needed, and honestly, it really depends. I mean, there are some times where during my first semester, it was very, very time intensive, and it was more than 15 hours, but then it also kind of changed over the years. So I would definitely say, as with any initiative, the first semester is definitely the most time intensive. In a separate video, I will also cover actually what the application process looks like for you, what my tips and insights from my application process were like. So stay tuned for that if you're interested in Academy Consult. Overall, a last note on this though, I feel like there's a misconception that only students from business should apply, but they have really over 135 consultants at the moment from 21 study backgrounds. So please do not feel like you have to do business to apply. Like, something you should though keep in mind is that normally our operations run in German. So you should have decent German skills, preferably professional level, at least that you can kind of interact on that level, because some of the clients might also require that. All right, so your first semester, let's say you got accepted. What actually is it like? So similar to Manager More, the first semester is actually a little bit different to the other ones. So you have both your onboarding and your trainee trip, which might be in May or November respectively. So try to make sure that it's really free, because there you can interact with all the members and alumni, and it's just a great way to kind of learn new people. And as a trainee, you will actually have some basic training. So that will be on 2 weekends. And that is where you can kind of just learn about the ins and outs of Academic Consult, some basic skills on project management, on how you present, on design of slides, and all these kind of good things. And as with every good consultancy project, which you will also do, you will have one where you have a client. Now, as I said, normally it's an internal project, which means your client might be a board member, but don't be fooled. They are still very, very ambitious. And yeah, you have both a midterm and a final presentation where you present them your results. The midterm is kind of to check in to see if the project is going to the right direction and then to potentially pivot. And the final presentation is just kind of, as with any consultancy project, you then deliver the results to the client. And I think what's really cool here is that oftentimes these projects are also implemented within Academic Consult itself. So you can really see that your work is being used. All right, something else I might have missed. We also have partners actually. So I talked about the network that our alumni are in consultancies. We have both Strategy, McKinsey, and Boston Consulting Group or Bain & Company, but also more specialized, Accenture, Oliver Wyman, corporates like BMW or Munich Re. But also there are several founders, so including Remberg, Vestigas, or the most known Celonis. So if you do not know, Celonis is Germany's Dekakorn, which means that they're valued at over 10 billion euros market capitalization. And their founders actually met at Academy Consult. And it was born out of a student consultancy project, actually, which they've pursued after it finished. So that is a success story right there, if you ask me. But we also have partners, as I mentioned, or sponsors, which means that as a student, you profit from getting to know these companies really on events and more intimately. So these include McKinsey, Allianz, Accenture, Celonis, and Bain & Company. So as you can see just from this small extract here, they're not all. It really ranges, so there's, I feel like, something for everybody. Okay, this was a really long episode on all things Academy Consult. So as I said, I will cover the topics of applications, how my time was at Academy Consult, and the topic of external projects more in depth in subsequent videos. Until then, all the best.